Alec Bennett always believed that life was a series of predictable and controllable events. At a young age, he had built a solid career as a senior manager in a large insurance company, earning respect for his efficiency and ability to solve complex problems. His office was a reflection of his personality, organized, minimalist, and functional. Every item had its place, just as every task in his meticulously planned schedule. Born and raised in a middle-class family, Alec learned early on the value of hard work and discipline. His parents, both teachers, encouraged his passion for numbers and logic, seeing in him a promising future in the corporate world. And Alec did not disappoint them. He graduated with honors and quickly climbed the corporate career ladder. His co-workers described him as the embodiment of an Excel spreadsheet. It was a compliment to his efficiency, but also a subtle observation about his methodical approach to life. Alec did not mind this label. In fact, he embraced it, seeing it as a symbol of his professional competence. His daily routine was as predictable as the formulas he used in his reports. He woke up at 6 a.m., went for a 5-kilometer run in the park near his apartment, had a hearty breakfast, and was on the subway by 7:45 a.m., always in time to catch the 8 a.m. train. At work, his schedule was equally structured: meetings, data analyses, project reviews. Everything flowed with the precision of a Swiss watch. But on that Wednesday morning, something was different. Alec felt it as soon as he entered the subway car. The air seemed denser, charged with an unusual energy. He attributed this feeling to the fact that the train was more crowded than usual, probably due to some event in the city he wasn't aware of. Holding his coffee in one hand and his briefcase in the other, Alec carefully maneuvered between passengers, looking for a space to stand. That's when it happened. An unexpected jolt from the train made him momentarily lose his balance, stumbling forward. At the same moment, he felt an impact. His body collided with someone, and in a moment of panic he saw his precious coffee sway dangerously in his hand. By a miracle, not a drop was spilled, but the scare was enough to make him turn around, ready to mumble a hasty apology. The words, however, died in his throat the moment his eyes met hers. In front of him stood a woman who seemed to have stepped directly out of a dream he didn't even know he had. Her eyes, a deep shade of brown, shone with a mix of surprise and amusement. Her hair, slightly disheveled by the movement of the train, framed a face that exuded a contagious vitality. "Oops, sorry about that," she said, with a smile that lit up her whole face. "I guess this train decided we all needed a little more excitement this morning." Alec, always so eloquent in business meetings, found himself momentarily at a loss for words. Something about her carefree manner, the way she turned a potentially unpleasant moment into something light and fun, left him completely disarmed. No, it was my fault," he finally managed to say, his voice sounding strangely hoarse to his own ears. "I should have held on better." She laughed, a melodious sound that seemed to echo above the noise of the subway. "Well, at least we saved your coffee. That calls for a celebration, don't you think?" Alec found himself smiling back, a gesture that was rare in his usually serious morning routine. "Definitely," he agreed, surprised at how easily the words flowed now. In the minutes that followed, Alec found himself completely mesmerized by the presence of this stranger. She put on her headphones but continued to interact with her surroundings in a way that fascinated him. Her fingers gently tapped on the strap of her bag, following a rhythm that only she could hear. Occasionally, she would close her eyes, as if savoring a particularly good part of the music. Alec realized that for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about his day's agenda or the reports he needed to review. All his attention was captured by this woman who seemed so comfortable in her own skin, so present in the moment. When the train arrived at her station, Alec felt a twinge of disappointment. She bid farewell with a quick wave and one last bright smile before disappearing into the crowd on the platform. And just as she had entered, she left Alec's life, leaving him with a sense of loss he had never experienced before. The rest of the day passed like a sigh for Alec. He completed his tasks with his usual efficiency, but his mind kept returning to that brief encounter on the subway. At night, lying in his bed, he found himself imagining scenarios where he met her again, where he had the courage to ask for her number or invite her for coffee. Alec laughed at himself. Love at first sight? That was the stuff of romantic movies, not real life. Certainly not his life, so carefully planned and executed. And yet, he couldn't deny that something had changed within him. A seed of possibility had been planted, challenging all his preconceived notions about relationships and human connections. The next morning, Alec awoke with a different energy. For the first time in years, he found himself looking more intently at his wardrobe, choosing a shirt that highlighted the colour of his eyes. On the subway, his eyes anxiously scanned each carriage, searching for a glimpse of those wavy brown locks. Arriving at the office, Alec was immediately called into his boss Richard Morton's office. Normally this would mean a discussion about some important project or a performance review. But today, Richard had a different gleam in his eye. "Alec, I have great news," Richard began, gesturing for Alec to sit down. "We've finally managed to hire that innovation specialist we've had our eye on for months. She started today, and I want you to integrate her into the strategic projects team." Alec nodded, already mentally reorganizing his schedule to accommodate this new responsibility. "Sure, Richard. When can I meet her?" As if in response to his question, there was a knock on the door. Richard smiled. "Right now, come in." The door opened, and Alec felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. There, standing at the entrance, was her, the woman from the subway. Their eyes widened in mutual recognition, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. "Alec, this is Olivia Winters, our new leader of innovation," Richard introduced, oblivious to the tension that had suddenly filled the room. "Olivia, this is Alec Bennett, one of our senior managers. He will help you settle in here." Olivia extended her hand, a smile playing on her lips. "It's a pleasure to officially meet you, Alec. I hope we won't have more encounters as impactful as yesterday's." Alec accepted the handshake, feeling an energy course through his body at her touch. "The pleasure is mine, Olivia. And don't worry, I promise to be more careful with my coffee from now on." Richard looked from one to the other, confused. "Do you already know each other?" "Let's just say we had a chance encounter on the subway yesterday," Olivia explained, her eyes never leaving Alec's. "Fate has an interesting sense of humour, doesn't it?" Alec could only nod, his mind racing with the implications of this new situation. He would be her boss. The woman who had occupied his thoughts for the past 24 hours would now be working directly under his supervision. Life, which he always thought was so predictable, had just played quite the trick on him. In the weeks that followed, Alec found himself in a whirlwind of emotions that challenged all of his carefully constructed logic. Working alongside Olivia was a constant exercise in self-control. Every meeting, every presentation, every team lunch became an internal battle between the dedicated professional he had always been and the man who found himself inexplicably drawn to his new employee. Olivia, in turn, seemed to flourish in the new environment. Her creativity and innovative approach quickly earned her the respect of the entire team. She brought a fresh energy to the projects, challenging the status quo in ways Alec had never considered before. It soon became clear that she was not just a valuable addition to the team, but a transformative force. Alec found himself admiring the way she conducted meetings, how her enthusiasm was contagious to everyone around her. More than once he had to chide himself for letting his gaze linger on her for too long during presentations. What made everything even more complicated was that Olivia didn't seem completely immune to him either. There were moments when their eyes met, and a palpable tension filled the air. Sometimes, during heated discussions about projects, Alec swore he saw a different sparkle in her eyes, something that went beyond professional enthusiasm. One afternoon, while working late on an important proposal, Alec found himself alone with Olivia in the conference room. The silence between them was loaded with unspoken words. "You know," Olivia began, breaking the silence, "when I bumped into you on that subway, I never imagined we would end up here." Alec looked up from the papers in front of him, meeting her gaze. "Neither did I," he admitted. "Life has an interesting way of surprising us, doesn't it?" Olivia smiled, that same smile that had captured Alec's attention on that first day. "Yes, it does. Sometimes I wonder if—" She stopped, leaving the sentence hanging in the air. Alec felt his heart race. "If," he prompted. Olivia hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. "Nothing. Forget it. We should focus on this proposal, right?" Alec nodded, swallowing the words he wanted to say. The moment passed, but the tension remained, a constant reminder of what could be if the circumstances were different. As the days turned into weeks, Alec found himself at an emotional crossroads. On one hand, his sense of professional ethics prevented him from considering any kind of relationship with a subordinate. On the other, he couldn't deny the profound impact Olivia had made on his life. She had awakened in him a part he didn't even know existed. Her easygoing approach to life, her passion for work, and her ability to find joy in the little things were slowly melting the layers of logic and control Alec had built over the years. It was during a particularly challenging project that Alec realized how much his dynamic with Olivia had evolved. They were working on a proposal for a new client. The hours stretched into the night, with the whole team collaborating intensely. In a moment of frustration, when it seemed like they were reaching an impasse, it was Olivia who brought a completely new perspective. Her suggestion not only solved the immediate problem, but opened doors to possibilities that no one had considered before. Alec watched amazed as she explained her idea, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. In that moment, he realized it wasn't just physical attraction or a fleeting fascination. He was falling in love with who Olivia was, her brilliant mind, her free spirit, her ability to see the world in ways he had never imagined. But with this realization came a growing weight. Alec knew he couldn't continue like this. The situation was affecting not only his professional judgment but also his peace of mind. He found himself distracted during important meetings, his thoughts wandering to Olivia even when she wasn't present. It was then that fate, once again, intervened in an unexpected way. During a board meeting, a company restructuring was announced. A new division was being created, focused on emerging technologies and sustainability, exactly the area in which Alec had been working intensively. After the meeting, the HR director approached Alec. "We are looking for someone to lead this new division," he explained. "Your name was mentioned as a strong candidate, given your track record and the recent success of your innovative projects." Alec felt a mix of emotions, pride for the recognition, excitement for the opportunity, but also a sudden clarity about what this could mean for his situation with Olivia. That night, alone in his apartment, Alec pondered long and hard over his options. The position offered was an incredible opportunity, a significant step in his career. But more than that, it represented a solution to the ethical and emotional dilemma in which he found himself. Being transferred to this new position, Olivia would be in another team and led by another manager. The following morning, Alex scheduled a meeting with the HR director. "I am honored by the consideration," he began, "and I would very much like to accept the position." On the day of the official announcement, after all the formalities and congratulations, Alec found Olivia alone in the hallway. Their eyes met, and at that moment both felt that something had fundamentally changed. "Congratulations on the promotion," Olivia said, a genuine smile on her face. "You more than deserve it." There was a pause, full of possibilities. Then, gathering all the courage he had accumulated since that first meeting on the subway, Alec stepped forward. "Olivia," he began, his voice low but firm. "Now that I'm no longer your direct supervisor, I'd like to ask you a question. Would you like to have coffee with me? Outside the office, I mean." The smile that lit up Olivia's face was the same one that had captured Alec's heart that day on the subway. "I thought you'd never ask," she replied, her eyes sparkling. As they walked together towards the elevator, Alec reflected on the journey that had brought him there. Throughout the time he worked alongside Olivia, he never wanted to cross boundaries or act improperly. From the beginning, he knew that feelings and professional responsibilities needed to be handled with ethics and transparency. That's why, despite the growing attraction, he stood firm in his principles, waiting for the right moment to take a step forward, without any shadow of doubt or need to hide anything. He, who always saw life as a series of predictable and controllable events, had learned a valuable lesson. Integrity and respect are not barriers to happiness, but the foundations upon which true relationships are built. Now, without ethical conflicts and with certainty of being on the right path, Alec was ready to explore this new chapter of his life. A chapter that began with a simple bump in a crowded subway, but now opened up to a future guided by conscious choices and infinite possibilities. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.